Hello, good night to the viewers, to the listeners out there, and welcome to this first program in the second season of Legalize. Since the end of the first season, the end of July, there have been many events of note. There was Carnival in Grenada, and there was the Olympics. Congratulations to all our athletes from the region who obtained medals. Congrats to Ms. Julian Alfred of St. Lucia and Ms. Tia Lafon of Dominica, both of whom won gold medals, with Ms. Alfred also winning a silver medal. Congrats to Lyndon Victor and Anderson Peters of Grenada, both of whom won bronze medals. Jamaica did not do as well as expected, which is saying a lot because Jamaica obtained several medals. But congrats to the Jamaican athletes who obtained medals. Congrats and happy birthday to Grenada's national hero, Kirani James, our first ever Olympic gold medalist. I also wish to recognize the sponsors of this program, Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union, GEL Professional Solutions Inc., and Genesis GEM FM Radio, broadcasting out of Canada. Once again, welcome to the viewers, and I want to welcome my guest tonight, Brother Isat Buchanan from Jamaica.
Greetings.
Greetings and welcome. Really glad to have you here. And I know the listeners will be really wanting to hear your story because I think it is a very important Caribbean story from many, many angles. So, my brother, really thank you for agreeing to come on this program. And those who saw the poster for this program would recognize that you have a remarkable story. And I want to go straight into it because, you know, I think many people this side here will have first known you as Big Youth Son.
Yes.
Others don't know you as Vybz Kartel lawyer. But I think that as Isat Buchanan, the person, there is really a great story there, encompassing all the different parts that we have spoken.
Thank you so much. Well, I'll take your lead from your questions because my story it's everywhere.
Yes, we do that.
Yeah, telling the story sometimes it is bittersweet, but I am a work in progress. So when somebody asks me who is Isat Buchanan, I start by saying I'm a work in progress. My name, given to me by my father, Big Youth, is Isat Akwaba. So the Akwaba means welcome, and Isat actually means the great one or greatness. So from the day I was born, you can see the pressure that my father would have put me under by naming me Isat. I don't know if I'll ever live up to it in this lifetime, but I'm certainly blessed to be able to be charting a path for myself in the Caribbean. So I was born in Jamaica, St. Andrew's Memorial Hospital, and I am the fourth child for my mother, Reverend Dr. Joan Porteous, and I'm from humble beginnings. I will say that my father, certainly being Big Youth and a musician, he was always in the spotlight, and my mother as well, being the daughter of James Samuel Porteous, who was a transportation juggernaut. That's what I would call him, my grandfather. And his contribution to the bus system in Jamaica and what it is, that's the background to which I grew up. Went to Stella Maris Preparatory and then went to Meadowbrook High School. I'm tracking this so people can have an appreciation. I went from a prep school to a high school, a significant change, because going into the public school is a culture shock for you, because you're meeting everybody from all walks of Jamaica. It was a very interesting experience at Meadowbrook. In terms of the influence, though, the teachers at that time, and I'm making this point, they were extraordinary men and women, because there was not so much drama around salaries and, you know, where we are in the modern Caribbean. It is money over nation building and wealth over, you know, educational transference. But from there, I got myself into trouble. One day, one summer.
Before we go to the trouble part,
That's where it is.
before we go to the trouble part, if you could speak a bit more about your father, because I can tell you, from me growing up, Big Youth was a legend. I mean, I remember some of the songs. I remember the album Screaming Target.
Yes.
The songs, you know, there was always this line: the only time black man know themselves is when they're back against the wall, you know. So if you can tell us what it is like growing up with him. I know he gave you the name, and clearly there were these great expectations, you know.
All right, so my experience being the son of Big Youth and what it's like growing up with him. This man is your father, and you have no clue as a young person why everybody loves him. Certainly when I was young, his music to me was not as appealing as it was to the generation above. So I could never appreciate why they love this man so much. So it's not until you get the opportunity to go to a Japan splash with him, Sun Splash as it was back then, and you see how people were starstruck, kind of like I have an appreciation of how people feel about Vybz Kartel now, and his kids have the same response to him. Oh, that's just daddy, you know. So he was just daddy to me, but he achieved so much. He was a Rastaman at a time. He was a Rastaman before Bob Marley. He was literally the first Rastaman artist to grace a stage with his dreadlocks and go to Madison Square Gardens, and when he goes to England and he takes Dennis Brown with him, and he paved the way for himself. There was one time he had 7 number ones in the Jamaican charts, and Screaming Target to date, the Rolling Stone says his album is a phenomenal album. So I'm hearing you say that album speaks volumes, and that body of work was before I was even born or a thought of coming into existence. But it is in that vein that, you know, you interface with people all over the world, and one of the things is my father, certainly, and one of the reasons why I love him and respect him up to this day, no matter what my achievement is, I say this all the time, he still can send me go shop. And I have to cringe my teeth even now, and he'll call me in the middle of court, and once it's him, I'll have to take his call. So he certainly is my king. I'm speaking passionately about him because, notwithstanding the music, he's a phenomenal father, and he loves his kids. And he loves his kids maternally. I must say that it's the strangest thing to say. But when I got in trouble, he's the one, he cried more than my mother, you know, and he never left my side, especially when I got in trouble. I keep saying that because if it were not for him, I wouldn't be here on this platform today. So I've seen the biblical demonstration of when your sheep is lost, or you put the herd aside and you go and you rescue that sheep, and if it's injured, you nurse it and you bring it back to life. So that's the phenomenal father that I have. And for those reasons, equally, I have a mother who, she don't care what you're doing in life. You must get your education. Why is that significant? Because I hate, oh my God, if I tell you how I hate school, you people is going to be saying I'm sending the wrong message, but school was just not, it was not so.
Of course, that's past tense. You hated school.
Yes. I'm putting it in the context of being a young person that I'm seeing young people that hate school, and I smile at it to say, but one day you'll appreciate it. So whether you want to be a ballet dancer, a reggae artist, a dancehall artist, a painter, a musician, a bum, you want to rub out your hand middle and smoke your weed, all of that stuff is fine, but make sure you get your education. And that was something that my mother said, and I gave her her subjects, and I was at university, and I'm giving her her education because it certainly wasn't mine. It was education back then was for parents to have bragging rights, which is why when CSEC comes out, you have so many persons talking about the past 23 subjects and 32. I don't know for what, but it's bragging rights. Good?
Same as me, yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
That's one other thing about your father, because you spoke of it being the first Rasta man. So I want to establish philosophically he was a Rasta.
Yes.
In terms of what he believed in. And
That so I get a lot of criticism now for having dreadlocks on my head. We're in 2024, and I can tell you the discrimination is still alive. It's still real. Even if it's not publicly, when the institutions get the opportunity to get their hands on you, they punish you and remind you, you little nigger Rasta boy, how dare you wear your hair, your 9th hair, as long you think you're rebelling against us, and they punish you like that. You interface with people who think that your face should be clean shaved, and you're unkept, you're uncouth, all of these things. So he certainly also, for me, I was a young Rasta because he was my father, and I was the first young Rasta who went to a school in Jamaica, and we never had that problem. You went into the school and you had your dreadlocks and you were celebrated. And there were persons who certainly still today not appreciated of that. And so certainly if you're going to be a Rastafarian, you must be a reggae artist. The idea, or conventionally, that you'd be a dreadlocks wearing individual and walk in the halls of justice is not something palatable to everyone. But as I said, people won't say it, but I check the boxes.
And you feel the vibes.
Right. I literally do check those boxes. And so he went all over the world, and his music and his social commentary it speaks about, Afro identity, Rasta identity, finding yourself, how you eat, how you live, the whole Rasta culture, not just a religion, not just the religious, but the cultural aspect. And he made songs. He had a song called Kill Pope Paul and the Seven. And church and state, the political system. So he was original fireborn Rastaman before the Capletons and the Sizzlers. So I will say that. So yeah.
So you were telling us now about getting into trouble.
Oh man. So the trouble aspects, when sometimes when you're young and you think you know everything in life, especially when you excel in education, it is never a marker. Theory is never a marker of intellect. It's never a marker of being wise. Wisdom comes with age, no matter what. It comes with age. That's why when they say respect your elders, there's a reason for it. But yeah, it was 1 November 1996. I'm going to America with my family, and a neighbor says that, hey, they have a rental car company. We need to buy some new cars, but you know, in America, the most amount you can carry is 10,000 US. So if you carry some, you can just when you get there, you give the money to, you know, my husband, and we'll purchase the cars. Don't worry about it. And it, to me, it was of no moment. Now I'm older and legally I understand that there is still some legal implications for accepting that, but people do it all the time. Anyway, it was money for me. I looked myself. It was money. Um, Went to the airport, and as I got to the airport, police stops and say, and remember this part of it. A particular police officer stops me and says, "Come with me." They take me, detain me, and hours later, 6 hours later, I had no duty counsel, no JP, no lawyer, no attorney. They just came back and said the package they took from me 6 hours ago had 2 kilos of cocaine in it.
Oh.
Yeah. I won't even begin to criticize the impossibility of what was said and the package that they brought versus what they took from me. I went to court, and when they said, well, you know, where you get it from, I told them where, who, what, when, why, like a real snitch, if that was the word. And I did listen up. I did talk up the things, and in those days there wasn't disclosure and statement taking and this and that. They just said go to trial, and I'm in trial, and before I know it, I hear you're guilty. My mother and the woman argue. That was the judge at the time, and I got 21 days in jail and $1 million fine. This is in 1996, Jamaican money. Anyway, after that, I was like
You're how old at the time?
17.
17 years old.
And that's another thing too. Why these things are so
Wow.
significant is I was a juvenile. There was some issues in the Caribbean at the time as to how do you process a juvenile. So if you are 17, if you're charged before you're 18, you're a juvenile. And it was when it was through a particular case. It was the Mollison case that became that was set in stone in the 2000s. That it is the date of arrest, and so the records are now sealed as juveniles. I'll tell you why this is significant, because after that particular experience, I returned to my life. As I said, my mother is a minister of religion, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to give my life to God. I'm going to become a pastor. I'm now enrolled at the theological seminary at the university, the theological college. I'm studying theology.
Okay.
And I'm doing everything from the life and teachings of Jesus Christ, Christology, Old Testament interpretation, New Testament interpretation, and I'm doing well, and I'm excelling at school. Whilst that took place, 3 years later, on the same exact day, yeah, I'm telling you, track these days. It was November 4th. Just track that date. It's the day my brother was born. My younger brother was born. So I'm arrested November 4th in 1996. And on November 4th, 1999, I'm arrested. Whilst I'm arrested, I'm going through the airport, get to Miami. There is a young man who went to school with me, asked me to call his mother. I was told to stop. You're not supposed to be using your cell phone. Less than 24 hours, I hear I'm a kingpin out of Jamaica, and I'm using the plane to transport drugs. And I was arrested. A year later, July 21st. I know these, I never forget these dates, you know. I go to trial, and the same officer that stopped me in Jamaica was given his green card and his papers to leave the force in Jamaica, come to America, testify against me. To say that I'm a kingpin and my father's a part of the Spangler's crew and I'm a big drug lord. I was from, I don't know how they track that, and they use something called 404. It's 404B evidence, other crimes evidence. So they could not have used my juvenile record, so they used the officer to testify about it, which was in breach of, where law is concerned, there's a breach because they didn't get the official records. And then the jury instructions was, if you believe that he had the propensity and the requisite knowledge, having done this before, then you can find him guilty. It was an Allen direction. And that's something they're allowed to do that in the federal, in the United States. And I was found guilty of conspiring with myself. And the young man was found not guilty, and I supposedly had used him as a social agency. That's what they had called the crime. So I was given, and on top of that, they gave me a leadership enhancement and the 404B, which is the other crimes thing, and they enhanced the charge, which could have been 36 months to 10 years.
So in other words, they use the fact that the evidence of the officer to see that you were convicted in Jamaica.
Right.
And then they use that evidence of the conviction in Jamaica.
Right. Right.
In 2 ways.
In 2 ways.
Convict you and beat the sentence you.
Right. And the enhancement was based on that. So that's the basis of the 10 years. So so now I'm in prison, 10 years, federal prison, and I kid you not, when it happened, I said, God, there had to be something significant that you need to show me, you need to tell me. And again, my father was like, don't worry, be strong, and we'll get through this. And he sent me money to call, different from money to buy food. Listen to me, this man took care of me religiously for 10 years. I'm telling you how significant that was, because I've seen persons who never made it out of prison because their families abandoned them. And and it's the same thing about eating to live. And this is America, and I'm telling you, I don't think that the nutrition was something that you could survive without having money to buy the requisite things and chart your diet and stuff like that. During the time in prison, I was working in the education department and the law library. And I would have done a lot of legal work because there's nothing but law books there. And you start to read the thing and you suddenly think you're the best lawyer ever. And you start to tell people, I can help you, and there are persons with life sentence, and you read and you say, but this was wrong and that was wrong, and I said, try a thing. And I was trying, and people were getting sentence reductions, and people were going home. And could I get myself out? No. And the Jamaicans would curse me and tell me an idiot. And how me I get out, man, out of prison, and me love prison myself. Yeah. And they, the usual. But I was young. You're looking at somebody who, I was 20, and then I saw 21, 22, and so my entire 20s was just in the prison. And I'm out on the 21st of July and of 2008, and I was deported to Jamaica, and all the stigmas and everything that comes with it came my way. For years, if something happened in my neighborhood, and if I was even in another parish or even out of the country, the police would come to my yard. and try to blame you for things. And mind you, I didn't go to prison for any stealing or any kind of, the type of crimes that are prevalent in the Jamaican space. But in Jamaica, and I'm sure it's similar, in other places in the Caribbean, they really like the stereotype. If once you're convicted of something, it doesn't matter the level, you're just discarded and treated with deference. That's the word I'm going to use, deference. Now, I'm with all of that, so I got some legal exposure, a lot of it in 10 years. It's almost like Karate Kid, wax on, wax off. You're using the law, but you have no appreciation of why or what you did, and all of that. Now, what was interesting, however, is that when I got to Jamaica, it was a different space, different environment. Leaving the Bureau of Prisons, I'm being honest with you, I've never seen the reality of poverty is that the living conditions in the Jamaican space was just really horrible. And I was like, this is me acting like a foreigner, like, oh my God, this little third world country, what am I doing here? And you start to get a sense that you want to leave and you want to go back. But then my mother and my father, they're saying, take your time, don't rush life, find your footing. And of course, my mother says, and there is, I think, a week from I was up, because I came out in August, and she was trying to get me to go and do law at the university. And I'm being honest with you, I was not ready. I rejected it. I felt overwhelmed, and I just left that alone. But I took up music, and my father gave me all the space and all the room to do it. And I started to record music. I have a brother who is much better with the music than I was. And I recorded some music and started to say, this is what I want to do, But while I'm doing the music, I realized real quickly that, trust me, in the industry, you get the same fight, you get the same, people are not as accepting, and it was very difficult, and they had something called payola. If you weren't paying the radio stations and the people to play the music and to promote the music, nobody wanted to hear anything you were doing. So real quick, there was some form of frustration. But what I did was as a personal trainer, so I was really good at that during the time. I had gotten into real estate, so I took the course and I started to do real estate, and I started to do so many things including volunteering in inner city communities, teaching kids how to play the guitar. At one point, I was working with the United Nations, doing all of that, and the day they found out that I had a conviction, boot, real quick. So that was always a stumbling block. The conviction, very difficult. So,
and then I heard it. Listening to you with a different platform. There's something about some booba. It's a booba.
I'm getting right. You know it, man. You're getting right there. So my song, while doing all of that, CD is now complete. And my auntie says, let's go to the Baba. He traveled from Africa.
The Baba,
yeah. And she says, yes, the Baba is.
Ingredient we call him a Sia man.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, the Sia man, right. So she takes me to the Baba, and I was like, well, clearly this man came to Jamaica for me, because all the way from Africa, right? As my see. So I'm happy to go sit with this man. And he takes the CD, a copy of the completed body of works, and we sit in a circle, and I have the CD in a circle, and he has some stones, and he shakes the stones and he drops a stone on the CDs, and we were like this because the stones scattered. If your eyes were open, you could have been blind. I didn't need, you don't have to be a rocket science to know this is the man. He's going to tell you right now that this CD now got no. That's the way no. I already know. And he says to me, So he was like, tell me something. You have a brother? I was like, yes. He was like, well, so let me tell you. I do have good news for you, young man. So, me, I was like, what? At that time, I'm real buff, Anyway, he was like, so in the scheme of things, your brother is Michael and you are Tito. The Jacksons. He's telling me that my brother has a talent and you don't. Leave out this music thing. And he says, but don't feel any way though, because your father does music and your father has all kinds of things out there in the world to collect, and your brother also doing the music. So what will happen is, I'm not saying that you won't do some music and you get, recognition from it, but it's not your path. You're going to be a lawyer. You see, when he tell me that, you want to see angry, cross, miserable, upset. I say, you are a fraud. You are a liar. I cannot be a lawyer with my convictions. You're deceiving me and you're a con man. And I was upset and I said, let me go straight to tell my auntie. And she was standing right there. And I walk past her, get in the car, drive straight home, go to our door, knock on our door, trying to complain to her, to ask her why she sent me to the barber. That's how angry I was that I left her at the place. And I tell you, I'm feeling the energy from when he told me that. But what I will say to you is not even a month after, I had a tenant who she decided that she was not going to pay me in money, but wanted to offer lady of the night services in lieu of money. And I tell her real quick that, listen, money is what I deal with right now, because what you're offering me, I could get elsewhere. And she went to the police station and said that I trespassed and attempted to rape her. And they came for me, beat me up, put me in handcuffs, throw me in the truck back. And I tell myself, I would never be in handcuffs again in my life. And that night when I saw that happen, the tears that flow from my eyes, and I was in a police station, I said, God, this could never happen to me. This could not be real. But whatever it was, when we went to court, there was no file, no charge. Went before the judge. She was Judge Pusey. She's now Justice Pusey. And she says to me, when she was saying that I could leave and don't worry about this and what she was going to do and these things need to stop. She said, you spoke up so well for yourself. I'm so impressed with what you have done. You should be a lawyer, man. If one thing you can chat up, it's good for yourself. And there was a particular lawyer in the court that day, and he gave me his card and said, something, come to my office and we can talk about, probably doing an intern, because I too was impressed with the work that you did. Anyway, fast forward, I did take up the offer, started to work in a law firm, and one day he said to me, you're doing really good at this stuff, Why you really should you should take up the judge offer and go to law school. So I was like, no, I can't bother, blah blah. He said, here what, man? You ever go university before? I say, yeah. He says, yeah, you lie. But since you go, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna sign you up for law school, and if you get in, I'll pay for it. I say, okay. And he went in front of his computer and he filled up all of the application online, and I gave the information. And I never forget it. He clicks in and said, let's see what happens. And about 2 months later or so, I get an email and it says, "Congratulations, you're accepted." I show him the paper and this man say, "Yo, we're going straight to you right now because I know this must be a lie or a scam." When he saw that I got into the law school, he said, "Listen to me, you know, you're going to find a way over pay for this thing." You know?
And that was in the law department in Mona speaking of, you know?
Yes, both Mona. And I kept saying I'm speaking in real time to give you an idea. I'm thinking law school is just one thing, but to do the degree.
To do the law degree.
So I was like, okay, wow. So I get there and working, and believe me, it was magical because my first semester I got all A's, and the minute I got that, the same thing. It was, can you keep this up? And 2 2s. I never got less than that. I think I had one issue with one teacher one time, and they gave me a bad grade, but the remark had cured it, and lo and behold, I graduated with first class honors. And even as a mature student, I entered their Mr. Law competition and showed the young boys, say, "Yo, a old man can win competition." And I won as the first Mr. Law. So I really engaged in campus life, and the law experience was excellent. And then came the law school. And
before we go to the were the tutors and the other students aware of your background?
So there were some of them who were aware, but one thing I will tell you, I always talk to my lecturers and my tutors, and I tell them of my issues. And they say, "You take it one day at a time. If this is for you," in other words, and I can tell you what I speak about her all the time. Miss Tracy Robinson. She is she is why I'm so passionate about the Constitution. I give all credit to her. And I would talk things into existence. And when I'm taking her course, and I said, "So Miss, how do I get the A+?" And she said, "But you're presumptuous, you have to get the work first." And one thing she would always say is, you can't be worried about the certification aspect of it if you don't have the degree. So the first thing that you have to do is get degree in hand, complete law school, and fret not thyself about that. So while the lecturers knew and the relevant tutors knew, the students, I never had that conversation with them. I can be honest with you. However, graduating with the first class honors was bittersweet because now comes the application for law school. Whilst doing that, and learning the law and stuff like that, I started to research expungements and stuff like that. So I did an expungement application for the convictions. The local conviction was expunged. And right on the cusp of the expungement, the law was changed right after. So in my respectfully, I think our laws went 30 steps backwards because expungements were available when persons could show rehabilitation and good character, not just for law, but for life. And convictions would become spent after the rehabilitation period had passed. That has changed significantly, and the current government has doubled down in terms of the Bail Act and the legislation in terms of what can never be expunged from your record, and you end up walking with what I call the Cain mark. When Cain killed Abel, they put a mark on him for the world to see. That's the idea and concept of the conviction. Anyway, I say that because when it came to law school, 2 things happened. I applied to be a JP, and I applied for the law school. The question on the JP form was, had you ever been convicted and restricted to Jamaica? So with my expungement, I got legal advice that I could say no. And for the unit for the law school, a similar question was there, but with the expungement, it was, would you need to declare it? And the lawyer did advise me that you make that declaration when you're speaking to the general legal counsel. So it had now that this thing is becoming real, that law is something that you're going to do. It started to become serious, and then the research starts. But so I finished first year of law school, did exceptionally well. Going into second year of law school, there started to be a lot of chatter on the halls about some student who is bright and feisty, thinking that they can come to law school and have convictions. So I'd be sitting in lectures, and out of nowhere, a guest lecturer would say, yes, and you would be crazy to think that. Can you imagine wasting 5 years of trying to be a lawyer, and you have this conviction and you're just not going to be a lawyer? And they, say these things in pockets and spaces. The worst thing to happen to me was I was doing one of the final exams of second year, and I came outside of the exam, and on the top of my car was my charge sheet and conviction sheet from America. So this was them telling me that they knew that I had a conviction, and they were being very nasty. Anyway, I finished the year, and as I finished the year and I survived. I keep telling people I survived law school. So I completed, graduated, and it was time to do the application to the legal counsel. And I went to Mr. Bert Samuels, told him
who appeared at this program twice.
Right, so he was my lawyer when I was young. This is the first one that I told you about, and he was like youth. I remember one time telling him, because he was so good at my trial, I tell him one day go be a lawyer, and he was like, like, go sit down. So he was impressed. He gave me a lot of strength, a lot of courage, and he says, we're gonna fight this thing, and the defense never rests. He said that, and he was like, we're gonna do this, but go do your research, do all that you have to do. You're bright, you must know, and they can say two things, yes or no, so let's give it a go. And I start to research, and there's this seminal case going on in the Caribbean, you see, Mr. Joseph Ewart Layne, and him going on in the Caribbean, and the law set in stone about good character is of now, and the judges grappled with this thing, and then issues as to whether or not murder could ever be, the questions. And I remember the memo that was put out. And from at the time, he was the dean of the university, Dr. Layton Jackson. He was the dean of the faculty of law, and he wrote a strong memo about the Legal Professions Act and the importance to. And I will say this now. I remain that I'm of the view that the decision in your case at the highest level, it was erroneous, at least, and there are persons who say that I shouldn't say that, save and except for if it is true that good character is of now, someone who sufficiently demonstrates that the legal profession and Bolton Law Society is, you have to decide what is it that you're protecting when you're dealing with the legal profession, and what the legal profession ought to be protecting is the scammers and the fraudsters and the persons who will disenfranchise citizens of the country to which you become an attorney. So the important thing was to distinguish from what the ruling of the Court of Appeal in Grenada would have set out, because when you read the judgment respectfully, the judge could only conclude that you ought to have been admitted to the bar. So the criteria then was to distinguish that, and relied heavily on your case. And surprisingly, there are several cases in the United States that mirrors the same thing, and the persons were admitted. So it came down to being white and being black. And me, myself, as a white man, in all my whiteness, you must laugh, Mr. Layne, because I've been so sarcastic and corny. But myself, as a white man, because I could never have been black, decided that I would try my hand and demonstrate to them that, listen, it was tender years, convictions before I was a youth offender at all material times. And the years had sufficiently passed. Even though I still go through a lot of ridicule and a lot of trauma and a lot of disgusting comments from, in the social space about being an attorney and having gotten in trouble when I was young. Notwithstanding that the conviction expunged, they still speak about them in breach of the law, but you just leave them anyway and allow people to express themselves freely. And I went to the GLC and we had a hearing, and I had 17 persons who gave recommendations and spoke about myself, and I spoke for myself. And the GLC, as it was then constituted, compassionate people, some of the greatest legal minds in the Caribbean, including one of the former president of the Court of Appeal. Well, both of them were at the hearing. The president of the Court of Appeal at the time, Justice Morrison, may his soul rest in peace. He was he gave the declaration for me, and he also was my lecturer. So I always had conversations with them about it and what my ambitions were. And especially for me, I'm not a criminal lawyer, I'm a constitutional lawyer. I identify as that. There would say that. And I'm passionate about constitutional rights. I'm passionate about minority groups. And I was given it's the strangest thing. I would tell my classmates that I would be called on my birthday. And I said, we don't know how you're going to do it. And then the dates came out for when the calling would be, and my birthday wasn't one of them. However, I hadn't gotten my practicing certificate until after the dates were assigned. And I got it at the last minute, they granted it. And I walked into the registrar to try to get a date so that I could make the calling. And don't forget this, the registrar says, oh, we don't have a date and we don't have a judge sitting. And a judge walks into the registry. And who is this judge? The judge is Justice Martin Gale, who at the time was a parish court judge, who gave me bail in the first matter, and he remembered me. And he says, if this is the God intervention, I don't know what it is, I will call you. But I'm only free on the 12th. Is that day good for you? And it was my birthday.
Oh my goodness.
So I got called on my birthday. I'm smiling about it now because I got the date that I spoke into existence.
Okay.
And I can tell you that from that day, and I'm not going to relive some of the negativity, but to say that I got called and it became a media spectacle for the reason that I was happy to say that I was in a country that understood rehabilitation. The decision of the General Legal Counsel was important. I think it remains important today because it said that this is a young man who showed rehabilitation. He has a bright future and he has something to contribute to the legal profession. Let's see what he does. That's what that decision had said. And there were persons who welcomed me, and there were senior counsels who were tweeting and being, not so welcoming. Some of them don't speak to me to this day, but I'm okay with that. So I never worked in a law firm as an attorney. As I said, I remain walking around with the cane stain. This is the lawyer with the 2 convictions. Everybody knows business. Nobody wants to hire you. Nobody wants you to be associated with the firms. So I would do work for lawyers, but they wouldn't even want me on record. Except Bert Samuels. Bert Samuels said, come through, youth. We're going to court. Come through, youth. Appeal. And he was, listen, Bert is like my law daddy because he gave me the space and he even invited me to be on the Sean Campbell team for the cartel matter.
Yes,
and we did that on the Court of Appeal, and then this Valerie Nita King's Counsel, there was an issue that came up about the technology aspect of it, and I had read all the transcript from volume 1 to volume 10, and I had highlighted differences and distinctions, and that 6 months at the bar, senior counsel she was lead counsel of the appeal, she says, you are going to speak before the Court of Appeal because we don't have time to learn this. And the next day I woke up, they put me before the Court of Appeal to speak about the technology aspect of it. And the sky's the limit from there.
And that had to do with the electronic evidence that you were trying to do?
Electronic evidence, right. JS1, JS2, and the 14C. That's correct. And
yes.
And they certainly, it was an interesting thing because I was 100% sure that appeal should have been quashed. It should have been allowed at the local appeal. And I'm saying this, I really think that the lawyers, I was on the team with Sean Campbell. I learned so much in the office, the chambers of Mr. Bert Samuels. He's a stickler for detail. I did research on top of research and the jury issues and all of that. And he would say, he would incorporate what he wanted or said this was irrelevant, but we went through every single thing. So everything was before the court. Mm-hmm. And so when the conviction was upheld, I knew it was the wrong decision. Mm-hmm. And
just to clarify, we speaking now about the Adidja Palmer, Sean Campbell,
right? That case.
Better known as Vybz Kartel.
Vybz Kartel, right? Sean Campbell and other things, right?
So you are not, and also Bert were not involved at the High Court level, the trial level.
No, I was not. I wasn't even. When I can tell you this though,
you were not here caught in the bar.
I was just, as I said, just get into law school. His trial is going on. I'm in 3rd year now. I go down to the court, seeing this thing, the jury thing going on, and all kind of nonsense going on in that court. But one thing I can tell you, when they found him guilty, I wrote a Facebook page, a Facebook thing, and I said, listen to me. I wrote to him and I said, Adidja Palmer, because of your case, I'm gonna get first class honors because I'm gonna write on the jury and all that is wrong with it. And I did my independent research paper on the jury. And I never, everything I did in law school was in relation to attacking that case. And I had no idea I was going to be a part of it. But I said, I believe that was the craziest thing that happened.
Are we speaking about the continuing with the jury, if you could just send us a
Yes,
bit
yeah. Yeah. Let me put it in context. Yes. The jury, there was 10 things. So even they continue with the jury after they suspected tampering. There was no investigation done. The judge only listened to the forewoman. The same forewoman who was present when the first jury was discharged. She indicated in chambers when questioned by the DPP, not the judge, that the bribing took place as far back as December, which would have preceded the dismissal of the juror number 7, the first juror. So why was this? This is so significant because you won't know if she got her way out of the jury because she didn't want to be a part of the bribe, and she's a God-fearing woman, so she gets out of it. And so we would not have known if it is the jurors all agreeing to take a bribe and then they got caught and got cold foot, or was the young man who they said was the bribe but was the only person who was not tainted. We will never know. So for those reasons, it ought to have been the trial should have stopped and the jury discharged and they start again. Ironically, they said we're not going to start again because it's too expensive, it's too much. So much to my surprise, why were they trying and petitioning to have a retrial when they said it was wasting state resources? But yeah,
just to clarify, there was nothing linking any of the accused people with the bribery.
Absolutely nothing. And the Privy Council made that clear at paragraph 45 of their judgment. They made it absolutely clear that was so significant because the case law, which was also before the Jamaican Court of Appeal, made it clear that in England, once it could be shown that the jury was the cause or fault of the defendants, then the judge stops the trial and you forfeit your right to trial by jury and you have a judge alone trial. We don't have that legislation in Jamaica. We still don't have that legislation in Jamaica. They have not considered the legislation in Jamaica, notwithstanding the ruling. But that's so this case is this case is important because of the change in the jurisprudence and the potential to perfect or make the justice system better because of the constitutional implications and all that runs with it. And I was able to be a part of that. But before that case, I'm saying before that case, so when people would say, well, how did you become Kartel's lawyer? Well, he was at a particular prison and I would see him at the prison, but the people who I would go to see, they would win their appeals while I'm their lawyer. So he's seeing people leave. There's one particular person that he was very impressed by, George Williams. This is a mentally ill person that was lost in the system for 50 years. And I freed him in 7 days. Yeah.
Tell us about that case.
Right. So the Indicom had issued a report that there are persons who are mentally ill lost in the prison system. One such person was Noel Chambers, who was a Rastaman that died at one of our local institutions. Very unfortunate how he died, but the Indicom, which is the police watchdog in Jamaica, they pretty much put the report out, and then I was working with Carla Galato, who is like the CEO of Stand Up for Jamaica. She works in the prison systems, and she engaged me to go and see George and another inmate. And I saw George. He too had dreadlocks, and I spoke to him and said, listen, I heard about your case. The report had sufficiently set out that he was there for 50 years. He wasn't fit to...
And it's not 15 years, it's 50.
50 years, yes. And I was alarmed by it, and I did what's known as a habeas corpus, a 238, to bring him to inquire as to why he was still in prison. Did the PP still have the file? Could they actually mount a prosecution? The delay was significant in any event, and as such, his matter ought to he should be released from prison. Located his family. They presented themselves, and I took his affidavit, got a doctor who said he was actually fit to plead, so he could take instructions from me, and I took it to the court. The judge heard it. Never forget her, Justice Stephanie Jackson Hazley, and she says, I'm going to hear this matter, and I want him in court. The Crown has 7 days to respond, and we're doing this. And she released him 7 days later.
Okay. Any other relief you got, or you contemplating it?
No, so that's now the problem in this country is they don't want to pay him for the 50 years in the manner that we think he ought to be paid. And so that matter is still in the court because the offer was a little bit too low. And he is a man in age, and he has illnesses and need to be taken care of. And so
because there's a case out of St. Lucia that went to the Privy Council. I'm sure you're aware of it.
yes.
Yes, similar circumstances. People were there for 25 years and without receiving trainings.
Right.
Okay, so after that case now, well, I guess I know it is. This is about freeing people.
Yeah. I want
freeing people from sins in the US, or they couldn't free self from there.
Yeah.
No, it's back in Jamaica, it's free people. Study law, places that consider impossible, and he's doing it. So Adidja Palmer would have heard of that.
Yeah, Adidja Palmer, more than anything, I said to him, listen, there was a particular paragraph in it, there's a very long judgment from the Court of Appeal.
Paragraph 238, I think I want
to Yes. You know it. And I told him, I said, paragraph 238 is going to free you. And he looked at me like I was a madman. And I actually said to him, let me tell you something. When this thing free you, I'm gonna tattoo the 238 on my arm. So I'm gonna first you. So you would not believe that when the day that March 14th, when the Privy Council said he was free, called him on his, we had discussions on his cell phone. I can't speak about it now. And he had the 238 tattooed, and he laughed, and that was hilarious. Listen, it was so he already beat me to it. And I just found it amazing that it happened, and he believed in me. And why is this important? He believed in me when people were telling him that he was crazy. For I was too young at the bar. I didn't know anything. I was a dummy and all of that. But what was interesting is when I got the case in 2020. This is the interesting part. I wrote to the DPP, as she then was, asking her to preserve the evidence and for me to get access to the phone. She ignored me. She's never responded to my letter. Senior counsel said, maybe you're too junior, let me write. And he started to write directly. She also ignored until the time expired at the Privy Council. When it expired, the local media was aware that the time expired. And they asked me, did you get the phone? Were you able to? They were creating a news story. I guess one that would indicate that I was so incompetent, I couldn't even get the phone to make the particular application before the Privy Council for fresh evidence. And I said to them, I said, listen, the DPP was being shady and dodgy. and acting as authors of delay and as they continue to violate the constitutional rights of Mr. Palmer and the 4 others. That was my statement. I've never denied it. I said that that's the position. Shady, meaning you give me no audience. You talk down to me, you ignore me. That's my thing about being shady. You throw shade at me. I wasn't born in 1938, so I didn't know the European definition of shady, the archaic Old English. And I said, she's dodging me. As in, I'm trying to talk to you, you're not talking to me, you're dodging me, you're hiding from me. Like when people play dodgeball, they cite you. They said that they interpreted it to say I was saying she was dodgy, being a criminal. And she put out a 7-page press release to say no criminal could ever work in the DPP's office. And although you're a lawyer, certainly you could never work in my office, and I am not shady, you are the criminal. And then they call a press release, and then they report me to the General Legal Counsel. And I had a hearing, and they found me guilty. The following year, I'm on a podcast similar to this, and this was when she was to retire, and there was a whole bunch of things. They changed the constitution to try to get her to stay on, and it was a controversial matter. And I'm on a podcast, not in the capacity as an attorney, but we're on a Partner Draw TV is the name of it, with Andre Stevens. And when they asked me for comment, I said, well, I quoted Kartel. He has a song where he said some particular words in relation to her, and I quoted it. I quoted it 2 times, or said it 3 times. And the culture minister the next day puts out a press release or to say that I said it and I should be disbarred, punished, removed as an attorney, removed from I'm not fit to be a leader, not fit to be a lawyer, all of those things. And the entire nation came down on me, the private sector, the church, said I should be removed. And the chairman of the GLC, she said she's received thousands of complaints, and she therefore I'm in breach of the canons, bringing the profession into disrepute and being disrespectful to senior counsels. And I have this case, and I said, one, I thought people were taking it out of context. And I said, let me apologize, because this is bad. There was a particular rich man in Jamaica, a rich Chinese man, and he said that I come out of my mother bottom, and started to speak bad about my mother and father. And my mother was like, this is just really horrible. I'm a woman, and your actions can cause harm to your family, and I apologize to the DPP. They said, I told them, listen, I understand the difference. There's freedom of expression. I know my constitutional rights. I did not bring the profession in disrepute, and I wasn't acting before the court or in the capacity as an attorney. They said I had a case to answer, and I promise you, I knew that it was a distraction. And a means to ensure that Mr. Palmer stayed in prison. And I said, I'm not going to be that distraction. And I went before them, and the day they were ready for me, they walked me down the hall into the back room, down in the basement, like I was going into death row, and they came for me. I can believe me. I've been to the United States courts, federal court, and it was not as contentious and came with that vitriol. And I went there, and although I had my attorney, I spoke to her, and I said, I'm pleading guilty. There's nothing I could ever say to this it was a non-black panel. 2 times that I went to the JLC, and there were no black persons on the panel. I would just need to say that. And I immediately pled guilty. And having pled guilty, I said to them, listen, I plead guilty. I have I was scheduled to travel on the 6th of December. I told them this, and in preparation for Mr. Palmer's matter and all of that. And on the 5th of December, the day before, they called me in and suspended me for 2 years.
Mhm.
And and I appealed, and the Court of Appeal, when I went to England, and the Court of Appeal, whilst that was going on, gave me a stay. So I'm operating on that stay as we speak. But the significance of it is there's a God factor in all of this. Because in this very long story, which I hope I wasn't boring you, God was all, and I believe that with God and time, things become apparent. They don't just happen by chance. I'm speaking to the man whose case was instrumental in getting me called to the bar. Our paths are, I want to say, identical, because young people with so much to offer to the Caribbean, and we were put through life-changing experiences. Significant because as Black people, we don't look at it as life-changing experiences because we're not white. So a judicial system will take those things into consideration. Because I promise you, if you were a white man, you would be an attorney right now. So I need you to appreciate that, and you might not need to hear that from me, but it's important that you know that the rules are let me not get myself in trouble, but to say that
so God, just want to establish, with all of that, you were able to go to England and appear before the Privy Council.
Yes, but why I was bringing that up about the God factor is I really believe that everything that was happening, God was preparing me for that day and that moment. He had to break me. He had to let me know how serious it was. I mean, when they suspended me on the 5th, preparations was made for my clients to get new lawyers. So I didn't even have to go to court. The courts were already assigning new attorneys to the matters. When that Mr. Palmer says, well, that's my lawyer, whether he's a lawyer or not, he needs to be there to do something. That's who I believe in. And he told me, don't worry about it. It will work out. Likewise, I prayed to my God, and I know that it's going to work out. I believe that. And it put something in me, that experience. It put something in me, I promise you. The seriousness and the importance and the deep prayer that came with it to say, God, let me see what I'm supposed to say. Let me experience and everything that I did leading up to the day, including the time that I traveled, how I went to prepare for the matter, led me to that day. And I got up, having spoken about everything and with everybody, when I got up at the Privy Council, which I must tell you was not reported, not even once in Jamaica.
But it was carried live.
Not in Jamaica.
No, but
it was carried, right? It was carried live for the world to see, but there was no recap, right? That was in England, right?
Yes,
that was important, but I don't know if you watched it, but I can say,
I didn't watch it.
I said everything that I needed to say in the time that was given to me, and my clients, with an S, plural, who also watched, were completely satisfied. And when you hear your client say, listen to me, no matter what happens, I know you did your best. I could not have asked for more.
And the judges are quite respectful also, I thought. I don't know if you share that view.
Yes. And I experienced what it felt like to be treated without having the convictions and all the things that were sidebar. In certainly in the Jamaican space, it is the judges only that would give me courtesy. So I really had respected that when I got to England, there weren't people, you know, on the other side or whatever. There was one or two people behind me that were being loud and being rude, but I kept my focus. But generally, the person beside me was very patient, and I was allowed to do what I had to do.
Yeah, so I need to ask you this in that context, just to, as an aside, because I know presently there is the conversation in Jamaica regarding constitutional reform and the Caribbean Court of Justice, placed in the Privy Council. Coming out of all your experience, and I will disclose, I support the ascension to the Caribbean Court of Justice, notwithstanding everything. My principal reason is that it offers access to people who would not otherwise have it to a final case. So I don't know what's your view.
So my view is this. I would have missed the aspect of it where I was able to go before the Caribbean Court of Justice. The Caribbean Court of Justice is one second. Blessings. I'm on a platform. my apologies. Yeah, so the Caribbean Court of Justice is equally, if not more qualified to deal with matters in the Caribbean space. I wish to make that quite clear. I have appeared before the Caribbean Court of Justice as a junior. And why is that important? Because they deal with the Constitution more robust, generous interpretation. They give effect to it. They understand it. These persons went to, I'm educated, these persons went to the university, and I really believe that they understand it. You good? In terms of what I'm saying, what I can say is what is important is that Jamaica must never have its final court in Jamaica. So if they decide to stay with the Privy Council, they are okay. I love the Privy Council. My personal preference is the Privy Council. The political party to which I support, the party that I support wants the CCJ. And if my party leader, Mark Golding, says that the CCJ can work, he's a senior attorney, and he too understands that constitutionally, you need the people who understand the Constitution to be able to keep that in mind when dealing with matters as it relates to the citizen of the country. So for me, anywhere that the law can be properly ventilated, I am happy for that. But if I had a choice, I would stay with the Privy Council because I get to go big for it. Yes.
Understood. So since the Kartel case and the decisions, and you've been at the bar now how much? 8 years?
7.
7 years. 7 years. Yes, 7. Have you observed any change in terms of people's attitude, and have you come across people now, as you say, you're a work in progress, now treating quote unquote the convictions from the US and Jamaica just as part of this work in progress?
Have I come across? Like I said, to be honest with you, there are persons in the legal profession, Miss Kathy Ann Pike, who is in the DPP office, Miss Carolyn Reed Cameron, who is the public defender, Mr. You have Bert Samuels, who has been there from day one. But you have some senior counsels who have said to me, Mr. Michael Hilton, you have senior counsel who have made me know that I should keep doing what I'm doing and try to be a little bit more graceful at it, which, as I said, I am a work in progress. I am from the internet era, I would say respectfully. So the profession is a little bit more reserved, but there are many attorneys who, especially for the young attorneys, I will say that at the retrial, there were some young attorneys. We were all young, I should say, at the bar. Iqbal Chevalier, Alexandra Labiche, and Mr. John Clark. These are attorneys who one would never expect to flagship such a important case in the Jamaican space. What I will say is, as a work in progress, what is important is that the conversation in the Jamaican space about the Constitution is important. To hear a lady in the market, a taxi driver, a bus operator, even a homeless person start to say, I want my constitutional rights is refreshing to me. And I think it will prod government to take a different course in how to treat with jurisprudence. I've had cases where the Rasta case, the young lady, the young child, young Virgo who they said the primary school said she couldn't come because she had lice and jonjo. So that case we won that case this year. The Court of Appeal affirmed it. That has changed the narrative for freedom of expression in the Jamaican space, as well as equitable treatment. There used to be that you needed a comparator, Bagwan Dean and these cases. That has changed in Jamaica in terms of advancing constitutional jurisprudence. I love that for us. And then this case, the Sean Campbell, Vybz Kartel case, has changed the dynamics for delay, fair trial rights, right to privacy, just how Constitution now brings itself into the criminal law. So much so that state actors must respect the citizen and understand the presumption of innocence. It is in that vein that I guess my passion in life now is to, when not arguing with Mr. Vybz Kartel, is to advance the Innocence Project. There are too many young persons who are languishing in prison and probably ought not to be there, as well as a robust rehabilitation aspect of it, because we can't be having people released from prisons with no opportunity. I'm telling you, once people hear that you're convicted, you're not going to have a job too much longer. And you people have to earn and people have to know. So one of the reasons why when somebody called me, when you say, come and tell your story, I'm happy to say to people that I have these convictions, even though they're expunged. I can't hide that from me, because people need to know that what not dead, not dash away. And whoever Isat of 17 years, 20 years is not Isat at 45. When you
I like to relate the story of Malcolm X.
Yes.
Malcolm was in prison at the age of 17, 18.
And look what he did. Look what he did.
So I like to tell young people, in fact, that
yes.
You don't have to stay there. You can start there, but you don't have to stay there. You can use that as a platform to really rise. And it gives you unique experience and unique perspective. So, my brother, I mean, this has been a real riveting story. Your story to me is inspirational. I'm sure it will be inspirational to a lot of young people in the Caribbean and maybe even beyond. You have gone through the mill and you have really achieved a lot. And not only achieved a lot, but show what is possible. I saw you on another program a few days ago where you were saying to somebody who also had an experience that, listen, you really need to focus on the things that you have control over,
Yes.
you know, and leave the rest to God, to the universe, however you perceive it, you know.
Yes.
Focus on those things. And I think you have clearly done that and done that in a great way. I really want to congratulate you for that.
Thank you so much.
I do believe that you I saw the case with the guy who was in prison 50 years, and the reason why I said 50 and not 15, some people were telling me, you have to be talking about 15 years. Can't be 50. You know, and I said, no, it was 50 years. Somebody was in prison for that, you know. Never got a trial. I was just languishing there, and you know, you were able to assist with that. So we have to end soon. We're going to end soon.
Yes.
I just want to, those who sponsor the program, namely TAO, Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union. The program is being broadcast in Canada by GEM-FM. I just want to thank them for continuing. And we do this here. Somebody says, Dahia McNeil says, your story is truly inspirational. Thank you for sharing it with us. Joe Bosanga says, this is an important story. Thank you for sharing with us. And I believe, as I said to you, it is really an important story. Very inspirational.
Thank you so much, everybody.
The thing about it, you know, I say sometimes to people, as you said, when somebody gets into to trouble at a young age, yeah, what do you prefer, that they continue doing so or they rehabilitate themselves as Malcolm X and I would say no as Isat Buchanan and make a positive contribution to the society? To me, that's no-brainer, but you know, sometimes people are not rational on those matters, and we have to, I guess, live with it and keep advocating, keep struggling to bring us in a space that
yes,
was as can be. So just before we end, what would you say is your philosophy regarding life?
You know, to be honest with you, my aunt asked me that. May her soul rest in peace. That the question when she asked is, my mantra is to become is to first define. To become is to first define. So whatever you want to be, you have to define it. Wherever you want to be, you have to see yourself there. So you can't just be living and existing. And I tried to articulate that to Shabadin Beard, because he says, oh, the system and the this and the that, but you have to define what you want. So even for the case, and I will never for the rest of my life stop talking about the Vybz Kartel case. Because when I said I was going to win it with myself and the other attorneys, people said I was an idiot and I don't know the law and I chat too much and he's never going to come out. And while they were injecting negativity, I remained positive, said God on time. People would say free world boss. I would say world boss is free. So to become is to first define. Yeah. And so you have to see yourself being a particular thing. If you want to be a billionaire, see yourself being a billionaire. And you will walk into that. You will walk into the thing you define yourself. You will become what you define. So if people say you're worthless and you believe and that remains in your mental space, you will just disappear and wither away as a worthless person. But for me, I always inject positivity in the universe, and I will never stop doing that. Certainly in the Jamaican space, I love my Jamaican people. Every time, every one of them that I talk to, I see brilliance and I see the star power in all of them. Only thing lacking, and I know it's similar in other Caribbean countries, is opportunity. And so I want to, we have a gun problem and a crime problem in the Caribbean, you know, it's not just Jamaica. And how do you take the guns out of the youth's hand? Because they're looking at TikTok and they're looking at Google and they're looking at YouTube and they're seeing opulence and they're seeing wealth and no access to it. And so they'll be misguided. But you have to put them in a direction to let them know. And one of the reasons why, like the CXC, the CSEC, we don't have proper, we don't have a structure in terms of how to counsel people about failure. Because I am also testament, and you as well, of going to get a degree later on in your years. Not leaving high school and sixth form at 18, and then you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a lawyer, and then you're there in law school, and then 5 years pass, and you're still 23. You're still 23, and you're not a lawyer, and you have your whole life ahead of you. Adult people, there are people who are talking to us now that just maybe 50, and you can go to a university and say, let me try out a new career and become a lawyer by 55.
Indeed.
Yeah, but we just have to define it and then become it, and that's the last thing I will say.
Yes, so I want to really thank you. I know I didn't drink any water. My wife is watching from somewhere. I know she will say, "Oh, I always tell you have a glass of water," but I fall down that to that. But the program has been very good, and I really want to thank you, brother, for your story, and even more than your story, for speaking about it in this way. And I have no doubt that that you would be an inspiration to many, and they will point to you. I hope we can continue the discussion and collaborating, because some of the matters and the interests that you have, I really share them in terms of constitutional matters in particular. We have inherited a constitution. I think it's worse for you because you have a clause saving all the
right.
We don't have that clause, you know. But at the same time, we have some laws which that at least need speaking about. And despite my impediments, I try to keep positive and to be positive. So I really want to thank you, and really thank you for appearing on the program. And thank you.
And I speak positivity into your life. I look forward to when you are ultimately called to the bar, and when that happens for you, that you continue to leave your mark in history, because your story is still being written.
Yes.
And so let us never forget that. And I will look forward to be on this program to say, I told you so.
Okay, thank you very much. And
all right.
Thank you to the viewers. Thank you to the listeners. Good night.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.